Alright, so today we're going to be looking at Unity, which is a cross-platform game engine developed by Unity Technologies, and it's used to develop video games for PC, consoles, mobile devices, and websites. So one of the best things about Unity is that it's a multi-platform game engine. So you can pretty much develop games using Unity for any device or console out there, whether it's PlayStation 3 or 4 or the Xbox or even virtual reality. You can develop games for the Oculus family of VR devices and PlayStation VR, and even if you wanted to create a simple stereo 3D game, you could do that with Unity. So there's many possibilities for developing your game in Unity. If you've ever played Kerbal Space Program, that's an example of a game that was built on Unity. So besides being multi-platform, there's many pros of using Unity as your game engine. A lot of the core code is already written for you. Things like rendering, sound, physics, and controls are available for you to use. And I've also found that it works very well with Blender. So if you've designed anything using the Blender 3D graphics program, it's very easy to export something from Blender into Unity. Another advantage of using Unity is Monodevelop, the script host program that is paired with Unity when you download it. So you have this program you see here that allows you to write scripts in, and it has a base class library that offers a wealth of functions for your game. So one of the things we're going to be looking at today is coding or scripting. And scripting is an essential ingredient in all games, and even the simplest game will need scripts to respond to input from the player and arrange for events in the gameplay to happen when they should. And beyond that, scripts can be used to create graphical effects, control the physical behavior of objects, or even implement a custom AI system for characters in the game. And so there's two main languages that Unity uses. Used to be three, but now it's two. And it's JavaScript and C#. And the JavaScript in Unity is sometimes called Unityscript because it's different than the JavaScript that's commonly used in, for example, web browsers. The two are very different languages, so it's entirely up to you what language to use with Unity, whether it's C# or JavaScript / quote-unquote Unityscript. And it pretty much depends on your past experience, if you have any. For those of you that do have experience, if your background is in C++ or Java, you'll most likely feel at home in C#. But if you're experienced with dynamically typed languages such as JavaScript / BASIC or PHP, chances are you'll prefer JavaScript. So there's two versions of Unity. There's a professional version, which costs money, and there's a free version, which is what we're going to be working with today. And the free version has certain limitations. You can't export your project to a lot of the platforms I described earlier, but you can definitely make some cool games for personal use. So there's different panels. In the center here you have, this is basically your workspace, your scene tab, and if you see behind it there's a game tab. And basically, when you're working on your project, you're going to be working in the scene panel here. And if you see, what I'm doing is right-clicking and dragging to move around, to change my perspective here, to orbit, if you will. And so you work on your project in the scene tab here. And then when you're ready to test it, you hit the play button. And basically, the game tab will show up and it will show you the game. You can see right now nothing's happening because we haven't built anything yet. So it's just basically you're looking at a horizon, and the game has no instructions on what to do. So I'm going to just hit the play button again to stop that. And a lot of these other panels are properties panels. So over here where it says hierarchy, you have basically all the objects that are in your project, and by default it gives you a camera. And by the way, I just hit F on the keyboard, and F zooms to whatever the selected object is over here. So I hit F and it brought me to the camera, And I'm going to click on directional light, and I'll hit F, and you can see this is basically our sun, quote unquote. Another way to move around is if you click on the middle mouse button. That allows you to pan. So between the pan, the middle mouse, and right clicking, you can basically look around an object. There's also these buttons over here that allow you to look basically side view, front view, top view. You can change your perspective mode. So whether it's you want perspective or orthographic. And over here with whatever object that is selected in the hierarchy, it'll give you different properties of that object. So you can see these are all the properties of the camera, and these are all the properties of the directional light. Now when we add scripts, what we're going to be doing is adding scripts to these objects, and they're going to show up over here. So we'll get to that in a bit. But what I want to do is add in a cube object, because basically what we're going to do is write some scripts for a cube. And so what you're going to want to do is just click up here on Game Object and go over to where it says 3D Object and click on Cube. Alright, I'm going to hit F, and it zooms right up on our cube here. Alright, so we have a cube, and we can still hit play, and not much is going to happen. You probably won't. Oh no, look, you see the cube in the middle of the screen. Okay, this is very exciting. This is the start of a great game. You have a cube in the center of the screen. So I'm going to hit play again and stop that. And by the way, when you open up your first project, you'll have the option to import packages into your assets folder, and I would highly recommend doing this. I just import them all because you never know what you're going to want to use in a game. It takes up a bit of, quite a bit of space, but for our tutorial, you're going to want to definitely download the cameras and I believe the environment, because we're going to be putting a ground texture in underneath the cube, and I believe that's under environment. But just to be safe, download them all and play around with them. It's the best way to learn, especially if you're a beginner. Alright, so before we do anything, let's go ahead and add a terrain, or basically a ground, for our game here, or at least our example game. Let's go ahead and click on Game Object, and we want 3D Object, and click on Terrain. And you can see it pulls in. I'm going to zoom out by pulling back on the mouse wheel, scrolling with the mouse wheel. It creates a ground for our cube. Now, I'm not quite sure where the cube is, so what I'm going to do is hit F, and make sure that my mouse is over the scene workspace here, and hit F. Okay, so the cube looks like, oh, it might even be under the terrain here. Let's go ahead and let's pull that right up there. So the cube is above the terrain, and if you notice, just like many graphic design programs out there, you have your 3 axes labeled here with your arrows. And what I'm going to do is click on the terrain and use the arrows and move the terrain in such a way that it is directly under our cube object. I'm going to click on cube and hit F again, and you can see our cube is floating above the ground. Now if I hit play, not much should happen, but let's just, for this tutorial's sake, hit play. And you can see, so it's basically the same thing. You're just looking at the cube, and now it's white underneath it because we've added a terrain. And let's hit play again. And we want to give this terrain some texture. So I'm going to click on the terrain object over here in the hierarchy, and then over in the properties, what they call the inspector, I'm going to click on the paintbrush. And then what you want to do is click on Edit Textures and hit Add Texture. And then over here in the left box, I'm going to click Select and go down, and there's a grass texture that I want. And again, a lot of these are just imported asset packages from when I created the project. And click on Grass Hill, double click on that, and hit Add. And then you can see it has a nice grass looking brown. So what we want to do is have our camera that's already inserted into the project follow our cube. And for this example, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm clicked on the assets tab over here in the bottom. And if you imported your camera packages, it should be under standard assets and cameras and scripts. There's scripts for you to use for the camera, but for our purposes we're going to use this script that I put in here called camera smooth follow, and originally this was a standard asset that you could import. I'm not sure if that's even available anymore, so I'll put this in the description, this script right here, so you can look in the YouTube description and download that if you want. But what I'm going to do is just drag this script and drop it onto the camera object over here. And then when I click on the camera, you can see over here it has the script and the properties of the script. And under target, you see it says none. We want to drag the cube over here and drop it right on the none, for the target. That way the camera knows to look at the cube. And if you want to see what the script looks like, I'm just going to double click on it and show you. It's basically a script for the camera to follow our selected target, which in this case is the cube. And again, this will be available to download in the description. So let's go ahead and hit play, and now the camera should zoom over to the cube. Okay, you can see the cube is floating, and that's because it has no physical properties yet. And so what we're going to do is click on the cube, and we're going to hit add component, and we want to make it, we're going to click on physics, and what we want to do is make it a rigid body. Basically that gives it mass and allows gravity to work upon the cube. So I'm going to hit play again, and it should fall. Yeah, see, so hit the ground. But that's about it. The cube hits the ground and there's not much to do. So what we want to do is give the cube some instructions. So one of the first pieces of code we're going to look at is basically a very basic color script to give our cube a color. So what we're going to do is make sure the cube is selected, and then go over here and hit add component, and we're going to go down and click on new script. And by the way, we're going to be scripting in JavaScript today, or Unityscript. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and name the script. I'm going to call it cube, I don't want it in caps, cube color, and then switch the language to JavaScript and hit create and add. And you can see the script is added over here in the inspector, and I'm going to double click on our cube color script now. So the JavaScripts in Unity consist of two parts. You have your function start and your function update. And the start function is basically what happens when the instance of the object, in our case the cube, is created. And the update function is what happens, consistently, basically every frame of time when the game is running. Whatever is written in this function update will happen. So that's where you're going to put your instructions. We're going to be putting code in between the brackets of the function update. And so what we're going to want to do is, I'm just going to push enter a couple times to give us some room. And I'm going to type get component dot less than renderer greater than open parentheses close parentheses dot material dot color space equals color dot green semicolon. Okay, and that's a lot of code for just getting a color, but the thing about using your basic colors with scripting is that you could change the color. So if in our game, if we had a cube that had good health, we could have it green, and if it had bad health, we could script it so that it changes to orange or yellow or red. as the color to indicate its health status. So, there's a lot of possibilities with the scripting. Now, let's see if this works. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S and save it. I'm going to go back to Unity, and now when I hit play, it should color the cube green. Yep, look at that. Nice highlight, bright green. And for our next code, we're going to give the cube some movement controls. So what I'm going to do is, just like before, I'm going to hit Add Component, go down to New Script, and it's already set to JavaScript, so I'm going to type cube control and hit Create and Add. And just like before, I'm going to double click on the script title. In this case, it's cube control. And once that opens up, we're going to make a little more complicated script this time. We're going to add some variables. And if you watched the Python tutorial video I did before, a variable is basically a placeholder for information. And in this case, it's going to be the speed of the cube and the turn rate of the cube when we turn it. And those are going to be flexible numbers that you're going to be able to change because we're going to be adding a variable. So we'll call it VAR. We'll call it cube speed. And I'm going to put a colon after that and type float equals 5.0 semicolon. And the float, I believe, basically allows you to give it decimal numbers. So if you want to be really specific with the speed. And then for the next line, I'm going to type var for variable cube turn colon float equals 2.0 semicolon. And then we're going to go down to in between the update brackets here. And I'm going to hit enter a couple times, and this is where we're going to add our controls. So we'll do our basic, what they call WASD controls, which is WASD, for forwards, left, right, and backwards. And so we're going to write some if statements. So basically, if W is pressed, go forward. If A is pressed, go left, and so on. So I'm going to type if open parentheses input dot get key. And by the way, make sure you're doing the capitalizations the same way I'm doing, otherwise the code won't work. Open parentheses, quote W, close parentheses, space, open bracket, transform dot translate, open parentheses vector 3, open parentheses 0, comma, space 0, comma, space 1, close parentheses, asterisk, time, dot delta, time, asterisk, cube, speed, close parentheses, semicolon, close bracket. Okay, so that's a lot of code, but basically it's if the W key on the keyboard is pressed, you're gonna move the cube forward 1. This is these three numbers are the three axes, and 1 it would be, I believe, the Y axis. Maybe it's the Z. In Unity, the axes are kind of weird, but basically this is your forwards and backwards axis. And then time, that delta time, and then times our cube speed, which we've defined our cube speed up here. So we'll be able to change basically the speed of the W afterwards because we have a variable for it. I'm going to save this and we're going to test it out. So hopefully when I hit play and when I push W now, the cube should move forward and the camera should follow it. So let's just hit W and look at that. When I push W, the cube moves forward. So the script works. And basically for the other controls, we can just copy and paste essentially. All right, for our next control, we're going to want to go backwards. So to save some time, what I'm going to do is just copy Control C and paste Control V, the forwards line of code, and switch, just make some changes. So I'll switch the W to an A, and I'll basically make instead of it being a positive one, I'm going to switch it to a negative one, which change it from forwards to backwards. And now, when I hit A, it should go backwards. I'm so confident I'm not even going to test it. So the last two controls, we want to get the A and the D, the left and the right. So I'm going to type if, open parentheses, input dot get key, open parentheses, quote, crap, I just realized I did something wrong. Up here, you're going to want to make it S for backwards. So maybe it's a good thing I didn't test it. S is your backwards, not your A key. Open parentheses, quote, A, because this is going to be our left control, quote, close parentheses, open bracket, transform dot, in this case it's going to be rotate, open parentheses, vector 3, open parentheses, 0, comma, negative 0.5, comma, 0, close parentheses, asterisk, cube, turn, close parentheses, semicolon, close bracket. And just to get this all summed up, I'm just going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to copy and paste this turning control and just switch it from an A to a D, and then get rid of the negative symbol here. And then I did a lot here, so there might be some problems, but let's go ahead and test it. I hit Control S to save it, and when I hit play, hopefully, alright, so there's problems. You can see down here it says somehow unknown identifier. It looks like I spelled input wrong. So what's cool is when there's a problem, you can just double click on the problem, and sometimes it will bring you exactly to where the problem is in the script. So when I open up the script, it shows you the line that there's a problem, and you can look. I misspelled input. Some of you may have noticed that when I was typing it. I'm gonna get rid of the two P's, and now it's nice and blue. Hit save. Now let's hit play. And hopefully I have the controls working now. So in theory I can hit W to go forward, we tried that already. A to go back, or no, S to go backwards, that's good. A to go left, and D to go right. Yeah, look at that. So I got some controls now. That's great. So now I can move around this world. So this is a pretty boring flatland world. What I can do is add some terrain options. I can add some hills. So what I'm going to do is click on terrain, and this is one of the coolest things about Unity. You can just basically sculpt a terrain very easily. So once you click on your terrain and you're clicked on the paintbrush, you can change your brush size, or actually you don't want to be clicked on the paintbrush. You want to be clicked on this little mountain symbol that has mountain up. And what I can do is change the brush size, and let's make it nice and big so I can make some big hills. And what I can do is basically just paint some hills. And if you look, you can see it's starting to draw some hills. So I can make mountains. I can make little hills. Let's just make this an interesting world. And you can change your opacity, and you can change the brush size if you want to make really steep inclines. You could do that. I'm gonna hit play, and now I should have some hills in the world. And yeah, so I can go exploring in this world. If I wanted to change the speed of the cube, I could do that. I can even do it in real time. The only problem with that is it doesn't save it when you do that. But just to show you, you click on cube, and then I'm going to go down. And for our script, because we added some variables, this cube speed variable, you can change it. So actually, yeah, I could click there and change the number. What I'm going to do is just drag over here, and let's crank that up to like 11. And so now I can go way faster. I might even be able to get some air off of this thing. Come on, yeah! Look at that! Look at that! All right, this is looks like I'm all over the place on this one, and the controls might be a little screwed up now, but this is actually kind of fun. Oh, glitched out a little bit there, but yeah, if you're like me, you'll find that making games are almost as fun, if not more fun, I would argue, than playing games. It's just so much fun creating. Okay, so I've done it. Now the controls are kind of screwed up because the cube is on its side, but that's kind of fun in and of itself. All right, so let me hit play and stop that. So I just wanted to go over some of the basics with the Unity. One final thing just to show you, if you wanted to switch how the sky looks, you can go up to this window button and click on lighting, and you can switch the sky box by clicking this little circle here. And it looks like I don't have any sky boxes downloaded, but that's the way you would do that and switch the sky. I'll be doing future tutorials on Unity for sure, because there's just so much you can do, and this is a basic cube game. I cannot recommend Unity enough. It's a great platform. Yeah, go out and try it if you've never used it before, and thanks for watching.